Hey team, Mike here at After 40 Fitness, after40fitness.ca. If you had a chance to see my video yesterday, I did a video on growth hormone. With Dr. Layne Norton's help, I kind of gave Dr. Berger spanking for sharing misinformation, some, I don't want to call it deceitful, but to me, right away, it struck me as deceitful. So I hope you had a chance to watch that one yesterday on growth hormone. Is it possible to add muscle while fasting because of this thing that we love and know called growth hormone or human growth hormone? And kind of really dispelled that. Growth hormone is not, it's actually misnamed. It shouldn't be called growth hormone. It should be called preservation hormone, frankly. Right? It's great for conservation of muscle, but not for growing muscle. It's not anabolic. So no sooner did I get that video done and published, and thank God for timing. I wasn't quick enough to beat Layne Norton to the video. He did it before me, and hence why he's included in mine. But then today, Thomas Delauer puts out a video on growth hormone and tries to put his spin on it, explain it. And I thought, no wonder it's so confusing. No wonder every time I go into the forums, in a fasting forum, somebody talks about growth hormone. It's because of videos like Thomas Delauer's today. If you subscribe to Thomas Delauer, often very good information. I've learned in the last decade a ton of information from the guy. But whoever's writing his scripts, whoever is putting the teleprompter in front of him needs a spanking sometimes. Because today's example of, I'm going to show you. I'm going to cut out some clips and I'm going to show you how the information gets misshared. And for a guy who claims to be science-based, he shares conjecture, and then once he admits it's conjecture, then, oh, wait till you see how he does it. Just plants the seed and then comes back and refers to it as if it's factual later. It drives me nuts. So on that note, if this is your first time to my channel and you haven't yet, please do subscribe. If you're watching this video and you don't know who I am, I live in the keto, Atkins, low carb, and intermittent fasting space. If that's with you or where you are, then, oh, man, we're family. And you're going to want to get notified when I get a brainchild or when a video like this pushes my buttons and I need to go on a rant. Are you ready? Here it comes. I'm going to put a link to Thomas's video below so you have the raw footage if you haven't seen it yet. Nonetheless, my clips are what I think are the pertinent parts. We do agree on many things. And for example, Thomas right away says that, that growth hormone is just one of a spread of anabolic hormones. Right? You and I, we were familiar obviously with testosterone, probably the single most anabolic hormone that men and women produce. Insulin, obviously anabolic, right? Not just for growing muscle, but also fat cells. That's why in the keto, low carb, Atkins space, and intermittent fasting, we keep it low as much as possible. mTOR. mTOR is a big one, a big driver. In fact, it's the switch that turns on anabolism. When mTOR is up, you're anabolic. When mTOR is down, you're catabolic. mTOR being the mechanistic target of rapamycin. I just love saying it. Great name. But those are all down. All of them, including testosterone, drop a little bit. I shouldn't say just drop a little bit. When it comes to insulin and mTOR, they bottom out, right down to our fasting levels during a fast, right? So they don't get any lower than that. So then you got to wonder how anabolic can we? Well, we're not anabolic when we're fasting. We are in a catabolic state. Make no mistake about it. So thankfully, things like IGF-1 and growth hormone kind of come to the rescue. They do not compensate. Honestly, they can't for testosterone, for insulin, and for mTOR. They don't, which is why they're considered conservative. Again, I wish that we didn't call it growth hormone. It should be called preservation hormone. Nonetheless, let's see what Thomas has to say right away out of the gate. He sets the stage with this comment about growth hormone.
So growth hormone increases during a fast to preserve your muscle. So you may not be building muscle with air, but you sure as heck are preserving it.
Okay, so we're off to a good start. Growth hormone is conservationist or preservationist. It's not anabolic. It won't help you grow. In fact, he says plainly, you won't grow muscle. So we're off to a good start. We've set the stage, and I'm going to refer back to this comment that you don't grow muscle on a fast. You are catabolic. In fact, how catabolic? Thomas comments on that as well. Let's see what he says next.
So intermittent fasting is largely catabolic. So by definition, we're not eating, which means that we have the increase in glucagon, we have the increase in epinephrine, norepinephrine, all of which break down protein. And when you measure urea nitrogen, how much protein is getting excreted out of the body, a lot of times you will see protein leave. So growth hormone is coming in to the rescue, to preserve, not to build.
So far, so good, right? To preserve, not to build. I couldn't have said any better. So one of the things Thomas does now is, likes to, he's as evidence-based as I am. And so he uses two studies that I found really profound. They're just excellent studies. I'm going to put a bit of a different spin on them. I went and actually read the studies themselves to make sure I had the same understanding he did. So I'll let him do the intro, or I'll use his video clip to do the intro on the first one. and some of his takeaways, and then I'll add my color and my context. Okay, here it comes.
One of my favorite studies is a very powerful one that was published in the Journal of Translational Medicine. Okay, and it's cool because it took a look at two groups of people. One group did intermittent fasting and one group did not. They ate the same amount of calories, and they found at the end of 8 weeks, the intermittent fasting group lost significantly more fat and actually preserved all their muscle, whereas the other group didn't lose as much fat, right? So lost fat and built muscle. Okay, well, that didn't just magically happen.
Now you tell me, was that a slip up? The study that he commented on said that they lost more fat and preserved their muscle. And at the end he said, lost fat, built muscle. That didn't happen by, just for nothing. That didn't happen by magic. That's the kind of planting of a seed that I detest. Because it didn't happen. They didn't build muscle. Let's go back and just catch that clip one more time and make sure we're on the same page about his diction or his vocabulary, and then we'll actually talk about the study itself.
And they found at the end of 8 weeks, the intermittent fasting group lost significantly more fat and actually preserved all their muscle, whereas the other group didn't lose as much fat. So lost fat and built muscle. Okay, well, that didn't just magically happen.
So whether Thomas meant to say build muscle or it was just a slip of the tongue and he meant to say preserve muscle, I don't care. But let's have a look at the study itself. You'll notice here it was, as he said, in the Journal of Translational Medicine from 2016, so quite new. Effects of 8 weeks of TRF, what we call IF, right? Intermittent fasting, they call it time-restricted feeding, on a 16-8 schedule, on basal metabolism, maximal strength, body comp, inflammation, cardio. This is a good study, and it's in resistance-trained men. So, key parts of this study. 34 resistance-trained males were randomly assigned to either this IF group, or what they call TRF, or normal diet group. Right? Eating is, and you'll notice it says here, they consumed all their calories. By the way, there is no deficit here. This is pronounced. I think you should know this. They were aiming for maintenance calories, not any kind of a caloric restriction. So you and I, who do IF for the express purpose of creating 300, 400, 500 calorie deficit, this wasn't the case. TRF subjects consumed all their calories in an 8-hour window, right? They're doing 16 and 8, with their caloric intake divided into 3 meals at 1 p.m., 4 p.m., and 8 p.m. There's your typical 8. The remaining 16 hours was fasted. Subjects in the normal diet group consumed all their calories in 3 meals as well, but at 8, 1, and 8. So the only difference was then a 12-hour window or an 8-hour window. So not much of a difference, but let's see the impact. By the way, I will make this comment. Testosterone and insulin-like growth factor 1, IGF-1, so 2 of the anabolic hormones that we talked about were significantly decreased in intermittent fasting. Isn't that interesting? Nonetheless, wanted to show you what it meant as far as their food intake went. Those across the top. Basal meant in the week prior to the 8 weeks. So they did some tracking to see what these people ate. And you'll see that for TRF, for the intermittent fasting group, they averaged 28, 26. And it dropped slightly. It only dropped by about 90 calories, while in the experimental group, right, in the experimental phase of 8 weeks. Whereas the normal diet was just over 3,000 calories, and they also slightly dropped by 90 calories, give or take 100 calories, during this 8 weeks. So for no other reason than that, maybe because they're being monitored, they actually dropped their calories by about 100. You'll notice down below under protein, they all averaged about 650-ish, 625 to 650 calories. So about 150 grams, 160 grams per day. And lastly, I want to talk about the resistance training. So we often have this conversation in all my videos on training and can you do keto or intermittent fasting without training? Of course you can. No one's coming to your arm, as I always say, and twisting your arm, making you have to do resistance training. I do want to show you what this group did. Now, did this have an impact? Thomas is going to talk about it. You betcha. In my last video, we talked about, even Dr. Berg had to agree that intense workouts are what's required to spark muscle protein synthesis, which can then overcome or prevent muscle protein breakdown. So notice what they did here. They had 3 sessions. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, session A, B, and C. There were various exercises, but notice about the last sentence, the training protocol involved 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps at 85 to 90% of their 1 rep maxes, and repetitions were performed to failure. Now, you have to ask yourself, particularly women, I'm going to just point blank right at you, how many of you are doing this? How many of you are lifting up a heavy weight, and doing as many reps as it takes till you can't do another? And yet, despite this protocol, enough calories, plenty of protein, and this method of resistance training, they maintain their muscle. If you're not doing 1 or all 3 of those things, how can you expect to even keep your muscle when you're intermittent fasting? Okay, that to me is profound, and that to me is the takeaway that we glossed over in Thomas's video, that these are the components, higher calories. So just take for example, someone then who doesn't eat at maintenance or close to maintenance, is in a 500 or 1,000 calorie a day deficit, who doesn't eat 150 or 23, 24% of their calories from protein. What if they're only down at between 15 and 20? Not enough protein. And then on top of that, doesn't do this method of resistance training. Can they also expect to maintain their muscle like this group did? I'm skeptical.
The European Journal of Sports Science took a look at two groups. One ate a normal diet, one intermittent fasting. Okay, and they found that the intermittent fasting group did not build muscle, although they lost fat. The other group built a lot more muscle. Well, guess what? This study did not look at calories. The group that was intermittent fasting consumed way less calories, but still maintained their muscle.
Okay, so here's the study. Let's have a look at it ourselves. Time-restricted feeding in young men performing resistance training. So also training, interesting, a randomized control trial, as he said, the European Journal of Sports Medicine from 2017. So really quickly, from the excerpt, there's a bunch of things that we're going to get from. I want you to notice, first of all, that it was in recreationally active males. There's just people who go to, men in this case, young men who go to the gym and work out a couple days a week. The time-restricted feeding program consisted of all calories in a 4-hour period, 4 days a week. So this was actually an alternate day fasting approach. Thomas kind of left that out, that it is intermittent fasting, but it's 4 days a week. So we're not truly comparing what most of us would do, which is every day. This is a 4-hour, so a 20 and 4. Make no mistake, 20 and 4 this time, alternate days, 4 days a week. And you'll notice not limited or no limitations on quantities or types of food consumed. What they did in the 4-hour window was put a buffet in front of them and said, you can eat to satisfaction. As for the resistance training program, it was performed 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, upper and lower body exercises. For each exercise, identical to the last study in case you're wondering, 4 sets leading to muscular failure between 8 and 12 reps employed. Measurements of total body were done by DEXA, right? So very accurate. Here we go. Here's his comment about calories. TD's comments were about that they didn't keep track of calories. They didn't insist on eucaloric. Intermittent fasting, or TRF, reduced energy intake by 650 calories on the days of TRF. Okay, so again, being given the choice of what to eat in a 4-hour window, as we all know, they naturally ate less. So instead of eating, these men all ate around 3,000 calories. On their intermittent fasting day of 20 and 4, they only ate about 2,300. Well, you know me by now. We're going to look at the study itself. In fact, I pulled this graph right out of the study to see the end results. I won't bore you with the details because obviously the one I'm most interested in is the second category called lean soft tissue. I will start with the top one just really quickly. Body weight, you can see that the normal group, the ND, the normal diet, went from 79 to 82 at the end of 8 weeks, so up 3. So their ad libitum, 3 buffets a day, paid off. They put on 3 pounds, but we know they put on some muscle. The question is, how much of that 3 kilos, I'm sorry, not pounds, kilos, or 6 pounds, was fat versus muscle? So let's jump down real quick to the fat mass. You can see they went up from 13.7 in mass kilos, for the ND group, from 13.7 to 14.5. So 0.8 kilos, or roughly 1.5 pounds of fat, right? So the difference then to their 5 pounds was muscle. Conversely, under the fat mass category for TRF, they went from 17.8 to 17.2. They did lose. So being in that 650 calorie deficit 4 times a week, even though it was alternate day fasting, did result in a 0.6 kilogram fat loss, or roughly 1.2 pounds. So the difference then is going to be what happened to their lean muscle. So let's go to the lean soft tissue, the second category. The lean soft tissue, as you can see, for the ND group, for the normal diet groups, lean soft tissue went from 56.4 to 58.7, 2.3 kilos of muscle added in 8 weeks. Well, double that, that's 5 pounds. They put on 5 pounds of muscle, and I don't know how these blokes did it. Okay, I work out damn hard. I work out harder than these guys do, and I don't put on 5 pounds in a year. So how they went from 56.4 to 58.7, God bless them. Good job. 2.3 kilos, just about 5 pounds of muscle. Notice now right below the RT-TRF, the intermittent fasting group, lean muscle went from 60.4 kilograms to 60.2. Well, they didn't preserve That's not preserving. That's not 60.4 staying consistent. That is a drop of 0.2 kilos or roughly half a pound. Half a pound in 8 weeks. Well, hold on a second. TD just used this study to say that their muscle was preserved.
The group that was intermittent fasting consumed way less calories, but still maintained their muscle.
I don't know about you, but losing half a pound of muscle is not, in my book, preservation. That's a loss. So despite the fact that their calories were up every other day, that their deficit was only every other day, and only 650 calories, so 2,400 calories over 4 days per week, about 2,600 calorie deficit, okay? And they resistance trained. They resistance trained to failure 3 times a week. And look at this. They still lost muscle. Well, I'm right back to it again, folks. I hate to say it, but if you don't eat enough calories, you don't eat enough protein, and you're not resistance training to failure, what are the chances that you think you're going to keep your muscle? Growth hormone or not, you're screwed.
Could you, and this is somewhat hypothetical, could you in theory take the growth hormone that is now 3 to 5 times higher in your body and use that to your advantage to build muscle? So you work out during your fast, protein is breaking down elsewhere, you have this elevation in growth hormone, you might as well utilize it. Anyway, that's just some food for thought there.
Could you, and this is somewhat hypothetical, take advantage of growth hormone that we just proved or that we agreed doesn't build muscle? It's not anabolic. At most, it's preservation or conservationist. It's not going to help you build muscle whatsoever. And the 2 studies that we looked at that Thomas quoted prove that you can't prevent muscle loss, even with growth hormone and resistance training to failure. But could you now work out during your fast, which they did in both studies, and take advantage of the growth hormone to build muscle? Just food for thought. TD. Get your head out of your ass. We just proved that, never mind hypothetical, it doesn't happen. It's a physical impossibility. Oh my God. I don't get it. I just don't understand that entire 10 seconds. What a waste of time. Okay? Worse than that. So now he just planted the seed. Could you hypothetically do something in your fast to take advantage of the growth hormone because it's spiked? Even though we know it's not anabolic, it doesn't build muscle. And my 3 studies that Lane and I looked at in the last video proved it's not anabolic. These 2 studies proved it won't prevent muscle loss, let alone grow any. All right, so that's what I meant early on in my intro when I said he's going to plant a seed. Now watch what he does in this last clip.
So what I would recommend is working out towards the end of your fast, where you get muscle protein synthesis at the muscular level. You're also deeper into a fast where you have growth hormone levels elevated.
So it just went from hypothetical and food for thought to here's my recommendation. Work out heavy during your fast, because then you might get some muscle protein synthesis at the muscular level and take advantage of the growth hormone. I don't know about you, but if I didn't understand, if I didn't research, if my passion wasn't understanding muscle protein synthesis, obviously not to the degree of Dr. Norton, because it's his PhD thesis, but just as for fun, this is a passion of mine to do research and to watch videos and look up the underlying studies and see if I understand them, I would take that at face value. At the end of this whole video, you know what he concludes with? Here's my recommendation. Work out toward the end of your fast because you just might be able to take advantage of that higher level of growth hormone to spark some muscle protein synthesis. Loser. Stupid. Absolutely unscientific. Proven not to be true. Categorically false. But I even just said to you it's hypothetical and it's food for thought. And now I'm going to make a recommendation based on it. Well, folks, at the end of the day, all I can say is keep an eye on your protein intake. Make sure your caloric deficit isn't too big. And if you're not yet working out, and I mean working out, not walking, not going for jogs, not, honestly, if you're not lifting weights, you need to start. The only way to prevent loss or minimize muscle loss is going to be with heavy resistance training. You need to. Okay, so stop being one of those people who says, yeah, but I play with the kids, or I go biking, with the kids up and down the street, or I go for a walk and I get my 10,000 steps. No, none of those are going to prevent muscle loss. If resistance training to failure doesn't do it, you think something less will? Stop. Stop it, please. Okay, on that note, I hope you got some information out of this. I hope you'll now look at TD's information with a bit more of a critical thinking, more of a lens of science. And at the end of the day, I just hope you got something out of this where you go, yep, I get it. I need to make sure my caloric deficit isn't too big. I need to up my protein. And I need to do some training. On that note, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Definitely punch the like button if you got anything out of this. If you have found me at all entertaining, hit the like button for me, for crying out loud. Do that. And hopefully you and I will be one of those people in our older years, in our senior years, where we've got some decent musculature. Okay, on that note, I'll see you in the next one.